We'll be learning about the sonnet. The sonnet is a form of poetry first popularized in Italy. The word sonnet means little song. The first real identifiable author who used the sonnet was known as Petrarch. He gave rise to the Petrarchan sonnet. The Petrarchan sonnet consists of 14 lines. There's a rigid rhyming scheme, and it follows a meter. Now we'll be learning what that all means. It's a nice picture of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, because, you know, Italy. So, the sonnet we will be talking about is actually in early modern England. When is early modern England? That was Shakespeare's time. It was also the time of Sidney. Sir Philip Sidney was probably the most prolific practitioner of the sonnet in English. His niece, Lady Mary Wroth, was the first woman to write a sonnet sequence, which is around 120 poems, all linking into one theme, and the most famous English writer, William Shakespeare. So what is a sonnet? Before we get into the mechanics of it, the themes, almost universally, sonnets are about love. Usually, there is an I subject, someone saying, I love you so much, blah, 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 you're so pretty, you're like the sun. There's usually an absent lover. This is the person to whom all of this affection is thrown. The big conflict is that the absent lover is in fact absent. So, getting down to the mechanics of it, the rhyming structure and meter have to do with iambic pentameter. It's the most predominant way that we speak. Iambic pentameter consists of 5 iambs, pentameter, pent being 5, iambs. An iamb is consistent of a foot. A foot, what is a foot? A foot is 2 syllables, an unstressed followed by a stressed, da-dum. All right? What might that look like? We have alone, fickle. Both of these are examples of an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. Together, they form an iamb. When you have 5 iambs, you have iambic pentameter. If you have 14 lines of rhyming iambic pentameter, you have a sonnet. Now, iambic pentameter sounds like this. Alone I walked the streets of old New York. This is a very bad example. It's kind of clopping along. Shakespeare had much more beautiful language. O thou, my lovely boy, who in thy power dost hold time's fickle glass, his fickle hour. Now, something you might notice, Shakespeare is talking to a boy who he loves. This is actually quite common for Shakespeare to do. Sonnets allow you to, whether you want to impersonate another character, there's lots of loose rules. This is a point of contention that Shakespeare wrote about boys. It's raised a lot of eyebrows over the town. Now, we've talked about rhyme scheme. Let's take a look at what that looks like. These 2 last words, power and hour, rhyme. That makes them a rhyming couplet. That particular sonnet, 126, about the boy, goes AA, BB, CC, DD, EE, FF. Very atypical for what a sonnet should be. Usually you see AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, GG. The GG is a rhyming couplet, much like we already saw. Usually the poet uses it as a volta. The volta is the turn, that's what it means in Italian, the turn on which the poem sort of pivots. Wish we had more time, we could talk about that, but right now we've got the nuts and bolts of a sonnet, and I hope that made a few things more clear.